this segment, we'll show you how to remove and replace your headlight and your tail light on your Dodge Durango. Let's get started. The tools we'll be using today are a wide clip removing tool, a T20 Torex driver, a fiber trim popping tool or something to pry with, ratchet, 10mm short socket, extension, and a little piece of masking tape. To gain access to our 10mm headlight retaining nut, we first have to remove our little plate on the back of the splash shield. So let's go ahead and do that. Using your fiber stick, so pry up underneath the plastic, pops out, grab hold of it, and wiggle it out. Let's set that aside. With our splash shield access panel off, we can now get out our 10mm nut that sits right inside here on the back of the rad support for the headlight. Just loosen the nut off. You should be able to go in and undo it with your hand. And there it is. Our two 10mm nuts are located underneath the headlight here. But it's hard to pull the bolt out from the capsule, so what we're going to do is take a little piece of masking tape and just place that on top of our socket. This allows a little bit of a snugger fit, and so you don't drop the nut down for the bolt. So let's get those out. And just wiggle it out slowly once you think you got her off. There we are, that's one. The tape just holds it secure so it doesn't drop. Set that aside and we'll get our second one. With our bolts and nut off our headlight capsule, we can go ahead and remove it. On the back of this headlight there's a retainer that pushes into the fender, which we have to clip out. Support your headlight with your one hand. Grab your fiber stick as a pry so we don't wreck the paint. Just press on the back. With our headlight capsule half out, we can gain access to our electrical. First we'll disconnect our headlight socket. There's a little red locking tab here that holds the headlight in place. We'll first lift that out. Just pry back on it. Once that's down, we can depress the tab and pull it off. With that away, we'll go ahead with our signal light next. Same thing, a locking clip. Pry it out and press down on the tab to remove. Our last one is a marker light. I find it's easier just to turn the whole marker light right out. It's easier to get at the bulb then. Let's take our headlight over to our bench and have a look. With a little bit of protective paper so we don't scratch our headlight lens, we got our headlight here and we're going to take a look at the headlamp bulb. Just grab hold of the socket and turn out counterclockwise and remove. This headlight bulb is an H13 bulb. It's a 60 and a 55 watt for your high-low beam. This one's in good shape, so we're going to go ahead and put it back in. Take a second to wipe off any grease you might have gotten on the bulb, which can hinder the life of it. Slide it back in with the tabs. You can only go one way and turn back in. Now on to our signal light. Grab the signal light pigtail again, turn counterclockwise out. To remove the bulb, you have to grasp it and gently wiggle it out. This bulb is a 3457 double filament amber. It's also in good shape, so we'll go ahead and reinstall that. Take a sec to wipe it off. Line up your tabs with the tabs on the housing. And turn in. Our marker light bulb, just to hold on to it, wiggle it out, is a 194 single filament. It's in good shape, so we can take a second to wipe off the bulb before you put it back into the headlight capsule. Now that we ensured our bulbs are all good, we're going ahead and replace this headlight. Grab your marker light, can only go in one way and turn in. Next to the signal light pigtail, again, the design only lets you go on one way. So gently push it on until you hear a click, and then replace your locking tab. Next to the headlight socket, again, can only go in one way. Slide it over until you hear a click, press your locking tab in, and we're ready to put the headlight back in. There's a few aligning pins on the back of this headlight that lines up with your fenders. Just remember to go slow, and when you're pushing it back in, not to be too rough. Let's go ahead and put that back in. You can feel when it's in the right spot once you think you're close. A little pressure, and then we'll go ahead and replace the bolts and the nut. With our tape still on our socket, we can go ahead and reinstall our 10mm bolts. Just place the bolts nice and snug inside the socket, and then replace it into the assembly. Just remember not to over tighten, you don't want to break the capsule. Nice and snug. With our bolts in, let's go ahead now and replace our nut on the back side. With our two bolts in the front back in place, we can go ahead and replace our 10mm nut on the back side. Just reach inside, put it on hand tight at first, and go ahead and secure it with your ratchet. Again, remembering not to over tighten. Once that's secure, we can go ahead and replace our inspection plate. There's two tabs on the back. Slide up on the splash, move it up in place, click in. In order to remove our taillight assembly, we first have to gain access to the two push clips on the inside of the quarter. So let's open up our lid, and I'll show you where they are. Our two plastic push clips are here, down here. To remove this, we're going to use our wide V tool, trim tool, get in behind the clip, and pry out. We'll set that aside. And same with the second one. Just get in behind it, and wiggle it out. We'll set that aside. With our two push clips out of our taillight assembly, we can now remove this taillight. The taillight's held in though by two push retainers here. In order to take that, we have to take our fiber stick and gently pry on the back of the taillight between the quarter. Just go nice and slow and wiggle it out. Here's our two retainers here. They're just two little balls that fit into some plastic clips. With those out, we can now remove our electrical connection. This has a locking clip on it, so we want to push down so it's down and pull back. Let's take our taillight over to our workbench and have a look at the bulbs. We're just going to take a quick second to show you the clips that held in the taillight assembly. Sometimes people pry on the wrong spot. The clips themselves, this is one that's already been pulled out. As you can see, the trim tool goes in between the bottom of the clip and the upper part and pulls out on the tab. This one's still in. All we have to do is get between it, and wiggle out. In order to get our taillight bulbs, we have to remove our three T20 Torex screws located here, this side, and one up here. Let's take those out and have a look at the bulbs. Okay, with the screws up, we can now gently pry up on our assembly and expose the bulb. Now the brake light, signal light, and reverse light bulb are all the same on this assembly. So I'll just show you how they come out. Just wiggle it out. All three of these bulbs are 3057 double filament clear bulb. All three bulbs are good. I just showed you the one. We'll click it back in place. Take a sec to wipe it off. And give the other ones a wipe too. It's good practice. The marker light bulb wiggles out as well. And it's a 194 single filament bulb. It's also in good shape. So it just wiggles back in. Clean it off. Since our bulbs are all good, we'll put it back in our taillight assembly and reinstall it in the vehicle. Okay, to reattach your board, just line up the holes, press it gently in the spot, and replace the 3 T20 Torx screws. It's nice and snug. All it does is hold it to the rubbers for a good seal so no moisture can get in. To reinstall your tail light assembly, reattach the pigtail. It can only go on one way. Push it on, and remember to push the locking clip back up. That ensures it won't come off. Next is to line up the 2 guide pins into the receiving clips. And gently push in. With those back in place, we can go ahead and replace our 2 retaining push clips. To put our clips back in, we're just going to place them in by hand first, the lower and the upper one. Might have to wiggle it around a bit. Once they're in place, just go ahead and push the retainer back in. For our fog light assembly, we have to look in the back of the bumper and remove the bulb from there. To remove and examine your fog lamp bulb, let's pry the wiring off first. Using your fiber stick, get behind the pigtail clip here and gently press down and wiggle off. With that off, we can go ahead then and turn our fog light bulb out. This bulb is a 9006 and it's in good shape. So we're going to take a sec and wipe it off and reinstall it. It can only go in one way. It's got 3 tabs on the back that line up to 3 holes on the back of the fog light assembly. So just place them up, line them up, and turn back in. With it in, we can go ahead then and reconnect our wiring. Again, it only goes one way and clicks up.